Since 2015, state lawmakers have introduced more than 2,000 anti-LGBTQ+ bills.
We are living in a state of emergency. People are actually openly spewing their ideals of hate, trying to find more and more ways to discriminate against our community.
Investigating gender-affirming care for transgender children as child abuse.
These bills target health care, bathroom access, the ability for trans kids to play sports, ID laws, and same-sex marriage. These bills are an outright attack on the rights of trans Americans.
At the same time, anti-LGBTQ+ rhetoric and violence is increasing across the entire country.
Tragedy struck Colorado Springs. A safe space for the LGBTQ+ community there suddenly became the scene of a deadly mass shooting.
These Nazi groups are turning out in Ohio to harass and intimidate trans people and queer people.
31 members of an alleged white supremacist group taken into custody after being found packed inside a U-Haul with riot gear, not far from an Idaho Pride event.
The attack came after a drag show event here, and this attack came just a few days before they were set to host one.
None of this is a coincidence. Powerful national groups are coordinating a multi-pronged attack against LGBTQ+ people and have been for years. Perhaps no one has spread the anti-LGBTQ+ gospel as widely or with as much political impact over the last 4 decades as James Dobson. Dobson has founded an organization called Focus on the Family in 1977. The group rose to prominence in the 80s, all the way to the White House.
That tells me that you really do care about the family.
Yes.
Dobson is as anti-LGBTQ+ as they come. He's called for violence against transgender people, compared the 2015 Supreme Court ruling on same-sex marriage to Hitler's rhetoric, and believes anti-bullying school programs push a, quote, gay agenda. Focus on the Family's lobbying arm is called the Family Policy Alliance, and they are deeply involved in state legislative efforts. This group identifies local legislators to support their issues. They participate in biblical activism boot camps, which, quote, engage the culture, train statesmen, and equip Christians and churches to advance the cultural commission. They want to advance a culture that does not include LGBTQ+ people at all. They want to completely erase us. The majority of Christians, which also include LGBTQ+ people, don't support the anti-LGBTQ+ views of these groups. The Family Policy Alliance isn't the only group out there though, which brings us to group number 2. The Heritage Foundation is a think tank that was founded in 1973 to combat communism and advocate for conservative social values. They have strong ties to every Republican presidential administration over the past 5 decades. They're already involved in working with the next administration if the GOP wins the next presidential election. Heritage has run ads against same-sex marriage and is very anti-trans. They're also the go-to source for right-wing media and politicians looking to cite junk studies and unqualified experts. One doctor in Tennessee got called out for bogus studies, and look who he blames.
I'm getting my information from the Heritage Foundation. So I assume that they have done significant amounts of research on that.
They lobby in state legislatures, often testifying in support of anti-LGBTQ+ bills. Here they are in Montana and Idaho, arguing against gender-affirming care.
On the role of gender ideology and its infiltration in education and culture.
They also launched the Daily Signal, a website where staffers author articles to further their agenda and where they often spotlight anti-LGBTQ+ stories, often credited as a good source by conservative lawmakers. The third group behind these efforts is Alliance Defending Freedom. According to its own website, ADF aims to secure generational wins to ensure the law respects God's creative order for marriage, the family, and human sexuality. So, interpret that how you will. Any effort to get rid of queer people anywhere, not just in the US, ADF has been behind it, supporting recriminalizing sexual acts between consenting LGBTQ+ adults, state-sanctioned sterilization of trans people abroad, pedophilia myth peddling, and claiming that LGBTQ+ people will destroy society and ultimately bring about the apocalypse, I guess. They've argued many cases before the Supreme Court, all in cases against LGBTQ+ people. ADF also appears in state leg hearings to support bad legislation.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Matt Sharp. I'm Senior Counsel with Alliance Defending Freedom. Senior Counsel with Alliance Defending Freedom. Senior Counsel with Alliance Defending Freedom. I'm Senior Counsel with Alliance Defending Freedom. Senior Counsel with Alliance Defending Freedom in support of this bill. It just shows we need to act to do this.
Does say that the Alaska Equal Protection Cause.
HB 23 has become more urgent than ever.
They've even promised to defend anti-LGBTQ+ legislation when it gets challenged in court. Take a look.
I do want you to know that there is a third-party group that has been working with us on this bill and will be responsible for any legal defense fees.
And in many cases, they even write the bills.
I have worked very hard with the Attorney General's office, with the Governor's office, with Alliance Defending Freedom to get a bill.
One Iowa lawmaker told reporters that the ADF helped draft a bill that would ban health care for trans kids. In 2021, these three groups formed a new coalition, or a supergroup, that promotes and models anti-LGBTQ+ legislation. It's called Promise to America's Children. Ironic. Here's how it works.
Emily Gao helped launch the Promise to America's Children in February. It's a coalition created by the Heritage Foundation and two other conservative groups who over the years have advocated for bans on gays in the military, fought against marriage equality, and endorsed recent trans bathroom bans. On their website, they offer a resource guide for parents responding to the transgender issue, and the site gives policymakers the option to request model legislation.
This group literally has a page on their website where you can print out an anti-LGBTQ+ bill. None of this is new. When we say we've been here before, we mean it. Throughout the last 50 years, the pace at which LGBTQ+ equality has advanced has created a lot of backlash. Even since 2018, the number of Americans supporting non-discrimination protections for LGBTQ+ people has risen. And since 2006, the number of Americans identifying as white evangelicals has actually declined. Now, past trends are no guarantee of future performance, but there is no evidence suggesting any reversal of these trends. Long story short, they're getting frantic and messy. It's not a coincidence that we're seeing attacks on voting rights and reproductive health, censorship of books in schools and libraries, and increased hostility toward LGBTQ+ people. They're all connected. There are large groups, more than just these three, that are behind this coordinated assault. And they are very well funded. Tens of millions of dollars have been poured into these efforts over the years. If you've seen anti-LGBTQ+ ledge in your state, chances are one of these groups is behind it. Know that these things are happening and that all of these attacks are connected. Queer people have always been here and will continue to be here. We're not going anywhere. They've tried before and we're not going to let it happen.